My name is Valerie. I'm part of the Auggie events squad. Um, as some of you might know, or maybe you're new to Auggie, but Auggie is the #1 platform for parents to find community, share recommendations, learn from experts. I personally just love it because you get to connect with fellow parents, and it's not just experts and it's not just peers, it's a great mix. So I'm very happy to be a part of Auggie. And this event today is From Fear to Confidence, Supporting Your Child at the Doctor with Susie Foger, is how you pronounce your last name?
Ogre.
Foger, okay. Susie's amazing. Susie comes with a master's in school counseling, a master's in child life, and certifications in sleep consulting, school counseling, and positive discipline. Additionally, she helped children diagnosed with cancer cope with and understand their experiences in the hospital at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. So lots of incredible things. But welcome, Susie.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm really excited to be here. I think that this topic is super important and it's not really discussed all that much. Um, and I could just say who hasn't felt nervous going to the doctor, right? Like as an adult, we sometimes get nervous. And I'm just gonna assume that people get nervous here when you take your kids to the doctor, right? And it doesn't really need to be scary. And that's what I really wanna focus on. Let me just share my screen real quick so that you can see some information that I have. So, supporting your children during healthcare experience. Now, doctor's visits, they're scary. It makes sense that they're scary for lots of reasons. It causes fear and anxiety for our kids, for us. Often kids feel out of control or they don't know what's going on because sometimes people don't take the time to explain it to them in an appropriate way. We feel scared that our kids are going to feel scared. We feel scared that we're making them sad because we're making them have this experience. My sister, when she had her first daughter, came home and I was doing this and I was at her house and babysitting, and she was like, she hates me now. I made her do that. And I was just doing my thing, playing with her, with my niece, and we were doing like the Barbie dolls. And I was like, so you went to the doctor today? Like, what happened? And her response was, well, mommy kept me safe. And so that idea, right? Like, so how can we help our children to feel safe and empowered, to feel like they know what's going on, to feel like they're more in control of the situation? The first thing that's going to inform your child is how you're reacting to the situation. Whether you have to fake it till you make it or not, the way that you are reacting in the situation is going to inform them of how they should react. Oftentimes you hear that your outer dialogue becomes their inner dialogue, and that really is the case. So think about, what kind of message do you want your child to have at the doctor? For me, my message is always, doctors are there to help. And that's the message it's a mantra I say to myself if I'm feeling nervous for my kid. It's a mantra that I'll say out loud. Not necessarily as a mantra, but I'll just remind my children, doctors are there to help. And this is the first thing that you can do is, how are you reacting? Are you cool, calm, and collected? Or are you biting your nails and frantically Googling stuff? Or is your voice getting really high and kind of like this, right? Which indicates that you're feeling nervous, and it's something that we do sometimes subconsciously. So really bringing awareness to what am I bringing to the table at this appointment? The next thing we can do is actually prepare our children. And it doesn't take so much. It sounds probably scarier than it is. I'm going to break it down for you so that you will not feel overwhelmed by it. But it is one of the really more important things to help lower fear and anxiety, and not only short term, but long term. It kind of shapes the way they experience going to the doctor. Okay, so how to prepare. First and foremost, how are you setting up doctors? I always say doctors are our partners and helpers. They help to keep us healthy, and or they know how to help us feel better when we're sick. That's it. The next thing you need to know is obviously what's going to happen. So get information about what's going to happen at your child's appointment. Call ahead of time. Are they going to be getting injections? Um, I do big preparation for the dentist, probably because it's a fear of mine. Um, and I do big preparations for my son. I'll call and say, is he going to be allowed to watch TV? Is he going to be allowed to sit in my lap? Like what information can I get before I prepare my child? Um, for general appointments, like just well visits, you probably know what to expect because you've been through those routines before. It's worst case is an injection, some sort of vaccine. Sometimes you might have a strep test, you might have a nasal swab. You know what those are, so that's how you can describe them. If your child needs surgery for any reason, I would really recommend calling the surgical center and getting information about what your child is going to experience. That's the next part here. When you prepare them, you're going to tell them what they actually will experience. Avoid using language like he's going to take a look, because doctors, nurses, they rarely ever just take a look, right? They avoid any part like language stuff where they're saying like, oh, they're going to take some blood. What is that? What is that? How are they going to take it? How are they going to take it? Right? We want to be really clear so that the children know what's going to happen to their body. If they're getting surgery, they might get an IV before they go to sleep. Sometimes some surgical centers will kind of put your child into a quasi sleep and then insert the IV so they don't even know that they got the IV and it's out before, when they wake up. Or maybe it's still there, so you might want to let them know they'll wake up with it. You want to use as concrete language as possible. So here's an example here, right? Instead of the doctor's going to listen to your heart, that's just like one gigantic concept with all of these little pieces to it. So he's going to use a stethoscope. Let's name what it is so that the children feel empowered that, oh, I know the name of this weird object. It's a very big word for a listening heart tool and now maybe not every kid will understand that your heart is going beep, 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 right? You could say your heart is part of your body that's inside your body. We can't see it, but the doctor could hear it. He needs a tool to help him. Show them a picture. This is what it looks like. A real picture, not a cartoon. Again, we want to prepare them for what they're actually going to experience. He or she will put the two ends into their ears like headphones and gently take the silver circle, put it under your shirt, chest, maybe your back, your belly. It may feel a bit cold. It will not hurt, right? Just what they will experience. I do this for literally anything that the child is going to experience. And it is really okay to start as early as 9 months, like helping them once their receptive language is like a kind of starting to flow, go for it, right? Give them that heads up, give them that information that will make them feel more grounded and settled and aware of what's going on, as opposed to just kind of being thrown to the wolves. When to prepare. You know your kids best. You are the expert of your child, nobody else. If your child would do better knowing the day before, do it the day before. Read them a book the day before. I'm going to send you out some resources that have like great book preps to use. Read them a book, really walk them through it the day before. If you know that your kid is going to spend 24 hours feeling super anxious because they have this new experience coming up and blah, 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 don't do it the day before. Do it an hour before. Do it at the doctor's office. It's okay to advocate for time to prepare during the visit. That is okay. You can say, and make sure when you're advocating, because sometimes nurses or doctors just kind of like getting the job done because they want to get to the next kid, not because they're callous, but because they have a job to do and they need to make sure that everyone is getting seen to make sure they're in good health. So say, I want this to go really smoothly for you guys, and I know that my kid will cooperate much better if I prepare them. Okay, that's how you're going to get some buy-in from the medical team. If you are in a hospital, generally they have a child life staff. I highly recommend you ask for child life. If you're in a surgical center, like a pediatric surgical center, they likely have a child life staff. Really, really recommend that you ask about that service. Sometimes even, I was in the ER with my son. They didn't have child life services in the ER, but they had them on, the fifth floor. And so they called and had the fifth floor child life specialist come down to us to help out with procedures and give us some things to help with distraction. So really, really try to advocate for that service. Okay, so now you've prepared your kid, you've let them know what's going to happen. Now, during a procedure, if you are brave enough, and I encourage you to be brave enough because we trust our children and how capable they are, ask them, would you like to try it on mommy first? The amount of increase in compliance that you'll get from your kid is pretty insane. And if you have a cool doctor, maybe the doctor will allow it too, which like totally flips the script when it comes to power and control, and it makes the kid feel way more in control, which generally makes the child feel more comfortable. So when my kid needs to get a strep test, we walk through the steps of the strep test. I tell him, okay, you're going to get a long Q-tip, and I ask the nurse for a long Q-tip. They're happy to give you, they have 1,000. And I say, you're going to go, and I do it funny because humor helps when people are feeling a little stressed. And I tell them, you're going to the nurse is going to stick it into your throat, and she's going to go all the way to that little hangy ball. You see that hangy ball? Yeah. Okay. And she's going to go 1, 2, 3, and then she'll pull it out and it's all done. It might be a little uncomfortable, not for long. And then I say, do you want to try it on mama? And he's like, so game. And he does it on me. And then afterwards, I go like this. Whether or not that happened, I do it because that's what he will experience. And I even had a nurse say, yeah, you see how mama coughed? That's probably going to happen to you too. So huge, huge, huge. Would you like to try first? It could even be on a doll. It could. That's totally fine. Having it be on a real person is obviously a little bit more fulfilling in the power control area. Of course, giving choices. Would you like to sit on mama's lap or on the examination table? Which ear do you want to use? Which arm do you want to use? Giving as many choices as possible will help them feel more in control. This is a huge one, giving them a job. When we feel helpless, having a job makes us feel way more grounded. It makes us feel like we have purpose there. We're not just a passive person in this experience. And that is huge. Generally, your child's job will be to stay still. Or it could be also, when we get to the distracting part, your job is to keep your arms still and play the Sesame Street monster game, right? That's your job. Mama's job is to be the arm holder so that the nurse who's doing her job can get the medicine into your body and to keep you healthy. This is for obviously a vaccine. During a procedure, distraction is awesome if you have a child that wants to be distracted. I recommend using more active games instead of like watching a show. So sometimes people will put on their kid's favorite show, but that's really passive. It's not necessarily engaging the mind as much as maybe playing, like I said, there's like a monster at the end of the story game on Sesame Street that my son loves. Maybe that is a more beneficial distraction tool because he has to use his mind a little bit more. It's game solving. It's using there's a tactile component, an auditory component, a visual component, right? There's more to it. There's also, if you're in a more higher, like a larger facility and there's a child life team there, they have this thing called Buzzy the Bee, which helps with injections. It provides tactile vibration input in a different part of the body. So the brain gets a little confused. And instead of focusing on the shot that's happening, their brain isn't as focused on it. It's half focused on the vibrations. You need like a teensy bit of training. So I would recommend probably using a child life specialist if that's available. Also, just like for any infants, if you're in the hospital, please ask for sweeties. It acts as an analgesic. This is like infant. It acts as an analgesic, and you act like the baby barely flinches. It's quite amazing. Obviously, also as much as you can, breastfeeding. If you're breastfeeding, that also gives a big dopamine hit to babies. De-stressing. So this is really cool, and this is all stuff you can do prior to any visit, and it's helpful for any stressful situation. Some calm breathing techniques. I have a resource I'm going to share with you that has a couple of apps that I would recommend for calm breathing practice. I like mountain breaths because there's a tactile component. Again, as many senses as you can bring in, the better. The more engaged the mind is going to be in that in that moment, right? Like we want to be as mindful as possible. So the mountain breaths is just breathing in and out, in and out, just like that. Box breathing, putting a box on a piece of paper. You don't need anything fancy. Use tracing the box, breathing in and out, in and out. Um, a lot of people talk about smelling the flowers and blowing out the birthday cake, the birthday candles. I recommend that for more older kids because if you have a 1, 2, 3, 4-year-old, how do they blow out candles? Right. That's actually what that's doing when they take a. It's actually telling your body, ooh, let's get more energized. Let's get riled up. What we want to do is make sure that when breathing out, the breath out is longer than the breath in. So instead, if you have, I'm like one of those people that sometimes I have lying around a pinwheel. If you have a pinwheel lying around, that's a great way to practice that kind of smelling the flower and making the pinwheel spin because you have to do it slowly in order for it to move. And again, then there's another sensory component, there's a visual component, and there's also an auditory one that they like kind of flap the plastic flags or whatever, flap in the breeze. Another de-stressing technique, a stress ball or squeezing mom's hand. Simply counting down. It's crazy how helpful that is when you're in a distressful event. If a child is getting a shot or getting their blood drawn, the part when the needle goes in, just in case anyone didn't know this, the needle comes out when you get an IV. Just in case you didn't know, I need to tell everyone that because I didn't know until I was like in my early 20s. And it's because I have a master's in this that they taught us that. So I might say, okay, the needle's going in, 5, 4, 3, 2, you're done. Needle's out, right? If you're getting an IV. If you're getting a vaccine, again, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, done, right? You might even get to 1. But I was working in a pain clinic and counting down, and the pain kind of was like contractions, the way that we experienced contractions, where it kind of like revs up and then dies down. That's how these children were feeling the pain. And we would kind of just count down from 10 to 0 until the pain went away. The last thing is visualization. Usually for older kids, it's really just telling a really vivid story. That's all visualization or guided imagery is for kids. They're so imaginative that it's easier for kids to do this than it is for adults sometimes. You want to think about something that your child loves. And again, we're going to go back to the five senses. I sound like a broken record, but it is the best way to kind of take a hold of your mind and bring it to the place that you want it to pay attention to. So if we're going to the beach, you're going to talk about the hot sun beating on the face, the sand under their toes, the smell of the ocean air, the taste of salt kind of like dropping on their tongue. You're going to talk about the wet sand that gets sticky to your fingers while you're building the biggest sand castle you've ever seen, and the waves are coming in and they're going out, and right, like you're going to just paint this beautiful picture. With de-stressing techniques, rehearsal is key because when you are in a stressful time is not the time when your brain is able to learn. That's like that part of the brain is quite literally turned off. If you were to look at like an MRI, it's off. There's no lights. So rehearsing when they're feeling calm is key. The last thing I want to talk about are comfort positions. So we know, right, like how anxiety producing it is to like be at the gynecologist, right? When you like have to lay back and you have no idea what's going on, and just like, right, like there's that anxiety of not being able to like know what's happening. If you have a great doctor, then they tell you exactly what's happening as it's happening, and that obviously makes you feel better, and that's what I'm telling you to do with your child. But also sitting up as much as possible is going to promote a child's sense of control. It lessens the need for like multiple people to hold down a child. It makes us feel better, and it makes our child feel safer. If you remember the story about my niece, she was on my sister's lap and she said, my mommy kept me safe. So there are a few options when it comes to comfort positions, and not all doctors' offices allow for comfort positions. I had to advocate really, really hard in my personal doctor's office to allow for my children to sit on my lap. To me, it was really odd, but it happens. So it's why I want to educate you on what it looks like and how to do it safely. So here are a couple of options. Can you see this, my mouse? Okay. So these two are chest to chest. And what that does is it's like basically like a big bear hug. And I say bear hug because one of the most important things when you're holding a child as a comfort position is making sure that the child does not move. Like that, when we talk about jobs, like that is your job. Because the whole point is that we're doing this safely, securely, and in a way that feels like we are giving love to our child during a tough time. So you'll notice the child's arms are underneath the grown-up's arms because she's able to hold them. You want to make sure this also, having the face out, allows them to watch a screen. It allows them to focus on some other things. Another thing you can do, you can play I Spy with your kid. Whatever it is to kind of just take their minds and take a hold of their mind and bring it somewhere else. This is just another way to do it. Maybe if your child's older, sitting on the bed. This is a side sitting. This is my personal favorite one. You'll see again, the child's arms are underneath the mom's arms. And in this one, you notice her legs are wrapped around his. And you're going to use like all of that Pilates strength that you've been working on to like your inner thighs are going to squeeze as hard as possible. I mean, not to hurt them, obviously, but generally, right, when something painful is about to happen, you usually go like this, or you do like this. The worst thing that you could do if you're holding your kid during this time is to go like this and let go, which is, again, instinct, right? Their instinct is to flinch and get away. Your instinct is to let them get away. Instead, to keep them safe, because there are generally sharps involved, when they flinch, we need to actually squeeze even tighter. In this one here, this is good for if you're getting like a catheter or pelvic exam, something like that. It doesn't happen often. You'll notice the parent is kind of blocking the sight view so that the child is distracted, and the child is in the mom's lap. This is for our infants. Swaddling the baby makes them feel safe and secure, and the dad is on top. Probably, if I could guess what he's doing, he's going, "Oh, so my goodness. Yes, I love you so much. I love you so much. You're doing such a good job." Because again, what's the first piece of information our child is going to get? Our response and our reaction. So, like I said, if you have to fake it till you make it in this regard, that's going to go a long way. The last one is back to chest. So in this one, it looks like he's laying down, but it's sitting up. You'll see the parent is holding the child's arms, and they're kind of like frogging their legs around the child's legs to keep their bodies as still as possible. And again, you're going to use your Pilates work you've been doing to keep those thighs and, core engaged and really keep them safe. That's what this is about. And just like with our de-stressing techniques, practice, practice, practice. Because you want the child to know, again, what to expect. What is it going to feel if I sit on mommy's lap during my injection? What is that going to feel like? How is it going to be? And you can easily do that at home. They can practice with their doll at home too, right? Like, okay, now I want you to be the mommy and Minnie Mouse is going to be the baby. How are you going to help her feel safe? How are you going to keep her safe during her vaccine shot? So that's all the information that I have for you today. I do have a couple of resources that I want to send out. This, I call it Star Power Plan. It's basically what will I do during my vaccine, really. I think a lot of times, most of the experiences our kids are having, God willing, is our vaccines or other kinds of injections. So this is just like a where will I sit, and you could also include how will I sit. So I would recommend this is for like anywhere from like 2.5 and older. Which arm will I use? Will I hold a hand? Will I watch the nurse or doctor? Please, if your child wants to watch, please let them. It is okay to watch. Maybe for you, it freaks you out to watch. Maybe for your child, it makes them feel more in control. Will we count? If yes, how? What number? What will I do while it's happening? So what are their options to do? You have a bunch of options of distraction tools. I'm going to show you another sheet where I have some, but really, like, again, any game that keeps them engaged, whether it's on a screen, whether it's in real life, any game like that. What will we do afterwards? This could just be like the normal, like, you'll get a sticker, right? Like, I'm not saying that you need to come up with a reward. This isn't a reward. It's more so highlighting a joyful moment that will happen afterwards. It could be the normal sticker the doctor gives. It could be that you're going to go home and eat dinner. It could be that you're going to go home and watch TV. Like, I'm not saying a reward, just something joyful to look forward to afterwards. The last thing that I wanted to share with you are some videos to watch with your child. Daniel Tiger is my absolute favorite. I grew up on Mr. Rogers, and I think that they are just doing a beautiful job. And then so I have some videos. Obviously, Sesame Street knocks out of the park all the time. Here are some books. The toddler prep books, like, run to get them. They are so helpful. I take my son to the dentist, and the dentist is like, I've never seen a kid so well prepared. And he's like, where's the scapular tool? I don't even remember what they're called, but my son will remember it from reading this book, and they'll be like, how do you know that? And it's really helpful. So these are some distraction apps. I like, if you go to the app store, this is what they're called. They're like weird anti-stress relaxing games. That's literally the name of it. I don't know why. Some calm relaxation, so you can just listen to calm music. Fireworks Arcade and Breathing Zone have some more like visual and tactile components to them. Fireworks Arcade is really good for young kids because it's literally just tapping the screen and like fireworks come up with soothing music. And then these are some prep and I say process apps because afterwards and before you can have, it can be helpful to use these guys. So I guess that's really it. If there are any questions, please let me know. If there's any like specific procedures or experiences that you would like help talking through, or like how in the world can I be chill while my kid is freaking out, things like that. Anything, let me know.
I can kick off just one to begin with. So I have a very spirited toddler, very smart too. So I've tried some of these tactics in other situations. And sometimes he just says, no, no. And it's just like shut down. Like, like I try the painting a story or painting, what suggestions do you maybe have for um the toddler that just keeps saying no or I don't want to or
Or it depends on what it is.
I'm thinking shots. Like if
Okay.
he has to go get a shot.
So I would first just remind him why we're getting shots,
Mhm.
right? There are different kinds of medicines that our bodies need.
Mhm.
Some medicines we take when we're sick, and
Mhm.
some medicines stop us from being sicky. And like, do you want to feel sicky? Usually the answer
Mhm.
is no. If they're in like a normal headspace, right? If he's in his like no, 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 then
Yeah.
like, he's gonna be like, yeah, I want to feel sicky. But
Yeah.
if he's in like a calm headspace, he'll say no, and you're like, yeah, that's why we have to do these. I do it also.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
I have to take these also to keep my body safe. And
Mm.
here's the thing: if we're in the doctor's room and you're having a really hard time and you're saying no, 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 I'm going to do what mommies do, which is keep you safe, which
Mhm.
means we have to get these shots. So I'll
Mhm.
give you a really big hug, and this is what it'll feel like.
Mhm.
And we'll count to three, and it'll be all done.
Mm.
And just, it's kind of, this is the framework of positive discipline. We are kind and we're really firm.
Mhm.
And it's not an emotional thing. It's
Mhm.
just, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to hold you now because this medicine is really important for your body. And I love
Mhm.
you so much that I'm going to take care of you. And squeeze him as hard as you can. And the
Mhm.
nurse will quickly wipe the swab, and she'll quickly put the needle, and she'll quickly put the band-aid, and you're done.
Mhm. Okay.
And then at the end, you
Mhm.
did it! It's
Mhm.
done! It's over! Oh my gosh, I wonder what sticker you're gonna get. Moving on.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're gonna celebrate him so
Mhm.
much for doing it, even though you forced it,
Yeah.
and you're
Mhm.
gonna just move on.
Sure.
If
That's
if
very
that's what you
helpful.
have to do, right? If there's just like a no, 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 this isn't really
Mhm.
an option. It's not a time for negotiation. It's not like he's
Mhm.
saying, I really want that cookie, and you're like, yeah,
Mhm.
okay, fine, have the cookie, right? There's no negotiation here.
Sure.
And
Mhm.
to have negotiation just ends up feeling worse for everybody when it'll just be done.
Mm. Mhm. That's very helpful, especially when they say no for the 10th time and you're like, "I don't know what to say now." So that's helpful
Yeah.
'cause, uh,
And you
that
know what? It happens also with medicine taking sometimes.
yes. Mhm,
Uh,
100%.
and once they get to like, when they're 3, you can still kind of, and I'll tell a little bit about like forcing it down. But
Mhm.
once they're like a little bit older, they have the chewable kinds, which can be better. They have, or like
Mhm.
you can give more choices. Do you want a cup or do you want the syringe? Do you
Sure.
want me to do it or do you
Mhm.
want you to do it? This will make you feel better. You're feeling really yucky right now. And this is going to make you
Mhm.
feel better. So I
Mhm.
really want you to take it, you know? So like,
Sure.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like, don't you want to feel better? I don't understand, right?
Yeah.
We're getting so like, if we don't get so worked up, they will get less worked up. They still will because their brains are primitive, but
Mhm.
they will. When they're younger, oh, the one hold I didn't talk about is a cradle hold. Wait, give me one sec.
Mm.
So a cradle hold, what I want you to think about is not just a regular cradle, but you're going to hold their arms and their
Mm.
legs with one hand. And when you give them the medicine, you kind of
Mm.
use your arm to stabilize their head. Put it in the really corner back of their cheek, and just a
Mhm.
little at a time. It's
Mhm.
not a race to get
Mhm.
medicine into their body. And if you do more, it's like, right?
Mhm.
And the whole
Sure.
time you
Mhm.
say, I love you so much. This medicine is to make you feel better. The doctor said I have to give it to you. And that's what doctors are our helpers. And I need to do this. I love you so much.
Mm-hmm.
right? Kind, firm. We have
Mm-hmm.
to get it done. And I
Mm-hmm.
love you, and you can do it yourself if you want to. And if you need me to do it, I'm happy to do it because my job is to keep you safe and healthy.
Mm-hmm. Helpful. Very, very helpful. I'm looking forward to trying that. Thank you.
um, yeah, any other questions? For injections, vaccines, don't forget that they're going to get a cold and wet small towel on their arm before.
Mm.
That's the part that people usually skip. Well, if anyone has any questions, if anything comes up, um, is my email going to be sent out? I'll put it here. It's Empowernting, EMPOWERNTING at gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. Um, I I love helping parents to feel empowered. I want parents to not think as much. I think we have a lot going on. And to me, education yields confidence. Um, and I work one on one. I work, and there's like a couple different tiers. So happy to help whoever. So it's all I want to do.
Mhm. It's very needed too. This is like I was telling you before the event, it's not everyone is prepared for the toddler years, me especially. You don't really
Yeah.
know what you're kind of coming up against, and each phase has its own thing, but I'm learning a lot about myself through the toddler years too. So having
Sure
people
do.
like you to help us
Just
regulate
remember. Yeah.
is like half the battle. So
Just remember, you'll see it again in the teenage years. Toddler,
I've
teen,
heard,
they're
yeah,
the same.
I
I've
have heard that.
parented so many ages. Um, and just like I help with general behavior stuff. I help with specifically medical stuff. So
Amazing. Well,
thank
thank
you
you
so much
everyone
for
for
having me.
joining us.
Thanks for
Yeah,
everyone who
thank you.
joined and anyone who RSVP'd that couldn't be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you everyone. If anyone has any questions too, like Susie put her email in the chat, so feel free to shoot them over to her, or if anyone else has anything they want to close with. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. And thank you, everybody. All right.
Okay,
We'll
awesome.
see you all later. Thanks, Susie.
Bye.
Bye.